Greetings and welcome. The question for today's spread is, what do we need to know about whether tariffs will cause a recession? The summary is, this spread suggests that if there is a downturn in the economy, tariff policy will collapse under American voter pressure from young and old, men and women. First card to the top left, Queen of Discs. And do note that there are discs represented symbolically in every one of these cards. The globe in the arm of the Queen of Discs, the 8 discs in the second card, the 2 discs in the third card, which are behind the double-headed figure and in the bowl, and the 2 of discs in the final card. So, first card to the top left, Queen of Discs. A traditional interpretation is a practical and ambitious woman or women. Many people are not aware that a favorite modern Bachelor of Science degree of young women is in business specialties. Anthropologists claim that a society without many old women will cease to exist. In the 1900s, the average life expectancy of an American woman was 40. Hardly old, and 30% of the U.S. population died from outright starvation and lack of medical care during the Great Depression, when there was a lack of old women to care for the population. Some generations of women had died off in childbirth when physicians with dirty hands had delivered their babies instead of midwives with cleaner hands from doing laundry and cooking. In this card, we see symbolized the power and skill of women opposed to the old goat who is in charge of policy. Second card from the top left, 8 of Discs, Prudence. A traditional interpretation of this, the second disc card among the cards in this spread, is intelligence and skill in important matters rather than meaninglessness or greed. It also refers to skill in growing and making. Note the symbols of pairs of ovaries or testes in this second card from the left. This card can symbolize extended families working together for mutual survival and creating future generations. Many American families now have at least one member who has over $1 million in his or her retirement account. Americans over 45 have seen the stock market collapse when the internet bubble burst and the week after 9/11. They have seen the value in their retirement accounts go down and back up. They can no longer be spooked into selling off their life savings at a loss. As more and more regular Americans are retirement account millionaires, the 5% will eventually cease to be able to scare people into stock market crashes. The very wealthy are in the habit of picking up cheap shares that represent the life savings of others. That is going to stop. Position traders reign. Third card from the top left, 14, Art. A traditional interpretation is realization, the economy, and the availability of accurate figures. Most Americans are not aware of a memo Vice President Cheney sent civil service accountants and their supervisors telling them to withhold negative financial data beginning about 18 months into his vice presidency. This went on for 6 years. Then negative financial data got dumped into the general election campaign. American markets were prevented from making gradual adjustments for 6 years. That is how we got the Great Recession. Middle-class Americans might not be saving enough, but the parental generation is investing heavily in their children's college educations. The grandparents and the great-grandparents have their Social Security checks to put soup and porridge on the table for the family. First card to the right, 2 of Discs, Change. A traditional interpretation is an industrious but unreliable person or people. This currently refers to the true millennials born 1996 to 2020, the federal definition of a generation. The millennial generation of this length, 25 years, is 100 million strong and mostly still children. If politicians try to push them around, they are a big enough generation to bring about American socialism, be forewarned. This is especially the case because Gen X, the generation before them, 1971 through 1995, is weak in count. There are fewer than 34 million of them from which to draw politicians to supervise the millennial generation. Millennials still have living great-grandparents and grandparents in their 90s and their 80s who tell them about the Great Depression, when 30% of the U.S. population was allowed to die of starvation and lack of medical care and homeless on the streets and roads and boxcars of the nation. The nation got Social Security as a result of the Great Depression. U.S. politicians have no idea what national change will be dared if a second Great Depression is even toyed with as a method of subduing the 95%. The pressure on immigration, in fact, may be a resistance to entrance of large numbers of peoples with revolutionary experience in their own lifetimes. Thank you. Please subscribe, click thumbs up, share links to this video among your friends, and do post a comment.